Alright, welcome everybody to my second lesson of Ishani Bengali, which is going to be learning to read Romanization. So, let's start off with the definition of Romanization. Romanization is a rewriting of a language in the Latin script. So, in Bengali, we have a different script than the English one, and we're just going to change that so that it's not too complicated to learn. If you want to, I will later on provide those resources, but for now we're just going to stick to Romanization. As I said, it's a different language, so there's going to be different sounds, and it's going to be harder to learn this language because of those different sounds. So you gotta remember, one thing with the Romanization is it doesn't necessarily equal pronunciation. Especially in Bengali, we have this problem because its similarity to Devanagari, which is the Hindi and Sanskrit script. So often they just use the Bengali sounds, Devanagari sounds, and Romanize them, and then just use the Bengali counterpart and Romanize it the same way. But they're not pronounced the same, so it doesn't really work that way. But still, that script that thing is still there, so that's why it's a little bit confusing. So, and also because of that, conventions will be broken a lot of the time. If you don't know the conventions, a lot of people will just spell it how it sounds, which is what I used to do all the time. One example of these broken conventions are my name, technically how it should be spelled. There should be two A's here as well. And then my name how it actually spelled, much nicer to look at and easier to pronounce by looking. Unless you're my one high school teacher who said my name should be pronounced is Honey. That made no sense. Okay, let's start off with vowels. So we're gonna first have A. So this one is probably one of the weirdest ones. It is A, but it's pronounced very similar to O. So it's pronounced like the A in ball, but sometimes, like in this word onublom, it's going to be very close to an O sound. So, but it's still romanized as an A. Then we're gonna have jaw, again, very close to an O sound. That means water, by the way. But this is a broken convention. You're gonna see it as a regular O sometimes. Ah. So this is pronounced like the second A in gala, or just, the sound of surprise, ah. It is a longer A sound, so you should keep that in mind, but sometimes it is shortened to just one A. And we have ma, which is an example of the regular convention, it means mother. We have baba, which is an example of the broken convention, because it only has one A for each, but it's pronounced the same way. Next we have I. So this is pronounced like the I in fish, but it's not a common letter. I only included it because it is in some words, but not often. Now we have double E or I. This is pronounced like the E's in feet. I mostly included the last one because just so you know there are two different I's. It's pronounced like the E's in feet, and since the shorter I is not so common, you can generally assume that any I you see is pronounced like this one. So one example for just a regular I is ki, which means what, and then for the double E we have Neil, which means blue. It's also a name. Okay, now we have U or double O, which is U. There are two different letters. One is shorter, one is a little bit longer, but generally you can say it the same way. It's pronounced like the U in flute, and one example of the word is mamu. So U, but it's the shorter one. Mamu means your mother's brother. Now we have E. So that's pronounced like the E in met. Sometimes, very rarely, you might see it as AE, but that's not very common. And we have Obishek, which is a name, and it has that E sound in it. Okay, now we have O, the regular O, not the A kind of O. And it's pronounced like the O in whole. It's less like the ball O sound, even though that's not an O, but you know what I mean. And an example of the word is mon. Mon means mind, and it has more translations, but this is the very general one. Most of the time, mon is referring to your mind. Okay, we have consonants. They're mostly romanized, the same as you would expect them to be, but we do have a big difference. That is the aspirated letters. Aspirated letters are, they're basically regular consonants, but you add a little bit air to them. So when you have an aspirated consonant, it'll be that letter with an H in front of it. So for example, JH. We don't have an MH, I was going to say that, but just JH, KH, GH, those kind of things. Those are a little bit of air added. Then we have CH. So CH, I was talking about how there's an H in front of every aspirated letter. This one is an exception to the rule. CH is the normal letter. There's no regular C. It is CH. So it's just pronounced like ch. It's not an aspirated sound, I just covered that. But when you do want to aspirate it, you add an extra H, so there's going to be a double H because of this is the actual sound with the H. Alright, and then cha is an example of a word with this sound. It means tea. Now we have two T's, two different T sounds, not counting the aspirated versions, of course. These are just two different T sounds. One is just like English, like in teeth, the first T, and the other is pronounced like the TH in thigh. Most of the time you'll see the second one, so this one over here. So if you see a T, you can generally assume it's pronounced like that T. One example is the city name, Kolkata. A lot of the time you'll see people pronouncing it Kolkata, but now you know the right way to pronounce it. Okay, now we have D and another D. Very similar to the other T's we had. One is just like English, the other is pronounced like the TH in the. Alright? An example of the word is dam, which means cost or price. BH. So this is an aspirated B sound. It's mostly normal, but I included it because sometimes people will romanize this as a V, and that is incorrect. I mean, it's not entirely wrong, but I just wanted you to know this. So if you ever see a V, don't pronounce it as V, pronounce it as B, okay? An example of the word is palo, which means good. No. Now we have PH or F. It's generally just pronounced like an F, so you don't have to worry about it too much. An example is fak or gap. Now we have 3 different S sounds. It's a little bit crazy, but you can just remember they're all pronounced like SH in the part of India that I'm teaching you how to speak Bengali about. Like, you're going to speak Bengali in the way people from West Bengal speak it, so you just have to say it like SH. You don't have to worry about too much about the specifics, because there's like specific ways. There's one that you pronounce from your teeth, one from your nose, and I think the other's from your throat. But you don't have to worry about that. Sometimes they are romanized as SH, because that is how they sound. One example is pash balish, which means side pillow or like a body pillow. Very common in India. I like them. Okay, now we have our unaspirated consonants without aspirated counterparts. So these 3, obviously H, probably, how are you going to add extra air to H? M, I guess you could, but that letter does not exist. And same with L. Alright, now we have some non-existent letters, so we're going to have W. Sometimes you will see things romanized as W. There's not a specific letter that you would translate to W, but some combinations of vowels and things, they will basically be a W. So that's why we have this one here. Then we have V, I already covered it. It would be done as a BH. And Z, very similar. It's often replaced by a JH. So if you see a word that has a Z in it, and it's meant to be Bengali, just pronounce that Z as JH. Alright, so that's the end. If you have a question, you can leave a comment or email me. And if you're more interested, please subscribe. Alright, thank you for watching.